We're pleased to be joined now by a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, Carrie Krawiec, back with us once again. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Of course, thank you.
So right now we're preparing to send our kids back to school. Some have begun the school year already. Others will begin next week, and they're going into another year that's filled with a lot of uncertainty. The one certainty in most cases is that there will be in-person learning. There's not this will they, won't they as we approach the school year. There's not some sort of a mixed bag of a hybrid system. In most cases it is in-person learning, but there has to be some sort of concern around what regulations will be in place, what's going to go on with the situation with the Delta variant as we're heading into the school year. How are all of these what ifs taking a toll on not only parents as they're preparing to send their kids back to school, but on the kids of varying ages as they head back into the classroom?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, like you said, we're seeing such a variety of impacts from kids of every age through their parents, and that the impacts in those families creates a ripple effect, right? So depressed or anxious parent isn't going to be able to address as many concerns or issues or withdraw or something, which may cause an extra ripple effect in their kids' learning or mental health, and vice versa. So little kids, of course, are experiencing separation anxiety. Some of them had prolonged times at home where they might have gone to preschool or pre-K but did not last year, and now they're being thrust into learning at a little bit of a later time, and having that extra time, and of course all of the uncertainty is causing separation anxiety in those younger kids. Certainly there's anxiety amongst kids who are aware of the pandemic and what that means. There's fearfulness about infection or risk for infection. A lot of parents are concerned about how their kids will do academically because they haven't been in this in that kind of structured setting to the same degree that we would have expected in our own childhoods or years past.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec. She is a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. So how do we begin to address those issues then? Because there is that tension that's still left over from last school year. The summers are relatively short, but still we're dealing with a situation where, well, most of the summer was relatively a more sunny outlook in terms of COVID-19, and approaching the fall and approaching the school year. Now we're in a completely different situation that's much more concerning. And how do we begin to address the way that this situation is going to be taking a toll on our children particularly, but also on our parents, because there is so much uncertainty still with where we're going to be going with COVID-19 and how that's going to affect our schools?
Absolutely. I think, well, certainly when it comes to parenting and addressing your kids' concern, I always advise parents to tailor their responses and give themselves time and space. So if your child asks a question or expresses a concern, instead of hastily blurting out an answer, let your child know, wow, what an important question, or I'm so glad you're thinking in these thoughtful ways. Give them encouragement. Let them know, because it's an important question, I'm going to take my time to give you a very thorough answer, and then use that time to consult with your spouse, with your peers, about what answer makes sense given what your kid's age is. So instead of, sometimes we as adults give our kids adult answers to kid questions, and may overshare.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec. She is a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. And so for students as they're preparing to go back to the classroom and they're dealing with this uncertainty, what are some strategies, particularly for older students who have a better understanding of their control over these situations, or their ability to cope with these situations, but also for younger children as well? What are some coping strategies that you would suggest that they implement, or even that their parents begin to implement with their children to help address some of these tensions and some of these issues that may arise as a result of the uncertainty surrounding the school year?
Absolutely. I mean, I think importantly first is just good self-care. It's a perfect time of the year to start doing like a more reasonable nighttime routine, get more sleep, have some structure to your day, and kind of help them ease into the idea of having, sort of a morning wake up, routine meals, whereas in summer it can just all be sort of free flowing. Providing some structure will help let everybody kind of reacclimate to that style. Teaching your kids some school skills, certainly to cope with anxiety, any kind of deep breathing exercises, what is called a grounding exercise, which is like a mindfulness technique to shift our brain from anything that might be worrisome or distracting or upsetting to just kind of getting back present to the here and now. To do that, there are kind of a variety of different strategies, but one is going through your senses. And what are 5 things I see, 4 things I hear, 3 things I smell, 2 things I taste, 1 thing I touch? A kid could do that sitting at their desk, and in that way recenter themselves to the present and out of their worried state of mind. A simple way to do it is, can I just count 5 blue things in this room, or 5 white cars in the vehicle on the way to school? Something that just takes us out of an emotional state into a little more rational one.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec on the MegaCast. She is the therapist at Birmingham Maple Clinic with us today on the program. And Carrie, over the pandemic, we've seen that we have data that 4 in 10 parents of school-age children say a child fell behind academically due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And in terms of the stresses and the mental health issues, children's mental health, service utilization declined amid elevated symptoms of depression, anxiety, and psychological stress for children and parents. So for parents, what should they be aware of as we continue forward with this? Because in some cases, kids are going to try to tough it out and power through it, and maybe better equipped to mask their symptoms than to talk about it in some cases. What should parents really be looking out for at a variety of different ages of children, because different ages of children will react to these stressors in different ways?
Absolutely. So I think one thing is parents recognizing themselves that they are not educators, and to defer to the educators about where their kid's level is. I'm a parent of a 7-year-old myself, and I don't have anyone to compare him to but himself. And my vague memory of my own education 30 some years ago is, are we normal or in the right place? So certainly using the resources at the school to gauge, and trusting the school teachers that they would tell you if there were major gaps. And of course, we're expecting, because many of us were in similar boats, or last year and the last 2 years, that all kids will have the gaps in one or more areas, that the schools will be now over time correcting or creating a new normal for what is expected of children. I think when it comes to right, so not putting any extra pressure to force your child to make up a gap until someone tells you and gives you some strategies to do so. I think as far as things go, it is stressful. One, we are in a pandemic, which has caused stress. Starting the school year is stressful, even when it's exciting. Excitement and stress are really neighbors to each other. So expecting that there will be sort of like a kick in any kid and adult's fight or flight response, because we're about to do something new. Even if it's something new we've done before, it's sort of new. So it's like a lawnmower. We just got to get a kick started. So expect that stress in the beginning. But as the weeks or months go on, if you're seeing your kids distress, stress level, crying, resistance, refusal, hard time separating, maybe difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, bad dreams, returning to bedwetting, or things that may be behaviors that haven't been present but are coming back, complaining of aches and pains, stomach aches, things like that. If anything sort of goes on for several weeks, so if it lasts a long time, if it seems to be raising in intensity, duration, or frequency, those would certainly be times to reach out to a professional, have some testing done by a psychologist or trained professional, where you could get a diagnostic path and some treatment.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec on the MegaCast. She's the therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic with us today on the program. And Carrie, just another couple minutes today before we'll say goodbye. Is there anything else that would be important for parents and for students, really, to know or to be considering as we approach a school year that is in and of itself going to be stressful because of uncertainty, because of continued changes? Anything else that they should know or they should be considering and thinking about as they try to deal with this stress and anxiety that is associated with the situation and is of nobody's fault? It's just the situation at play.
Absolutely. I love the quote, happiness equals reality minus expectations, meaning that if your expectations are dramatically different from reality, you're going to probably end up in a deficit and end up kind of miserable or perpetually upset. And so I think the word should is such an important indicator. I should be at a certain level. The kids should not be wearing masks. The kids should be wearing masks. The parents should be doing these things. Anytime you're using the word should, you're piling on expectations to a scenario. So to really be mindful of that, if you're hearing this is what I want, or this is my preference, really helps neutralize that experience. Because when you're saying should, you add a bunch of expectations, and you could end up just being exceptionally disappointed with each step along the way.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec on the MegaCast. She's the therapist at Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Of course, thank you.